The steak sizzled on the grill, the scent rich and savory, making my 5-year-old son Zachary lick his lips from the corner of the patio. But none of it was for him. My sister Tara, with her manicured fingers and diamond-studded apron, stood proudly beside her Great Dane, Duke, slicing into a fresh ribeye and placing it gently onto a porcelain dog dish. "Bon appetit, baby," she cooed at the dog, kissing its snout like it was royalty. Zach looked up at me from his folding chair, the only chair not cushioned, holding a plate of what looked like scrambled something. It didn't smell right. I squinted at the mushy yellow-gray pile. "Where'd this come from?" "Oh, I found some leftovers in the back of the fridge," Tara called out, smirking. "Probably just a little expired, but you know how kids are always picky." My mother, Diane, laughed without even turning. "He's lucky she made him anything. You spoil that boy." My dad chuckled from the grill. "It's protein, isn't it? We ate expired stuff growing up, and look at us still standing." "Barely," I muttered. They ignored me, as always. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I gently sniffed Zach's plate and recoiled. The sourness burned my nose. "You're not eating this," I told him softly, switching it out with the grilled corn from my own plate. He looked up at me with relief, eyes wide and innocent. "Thanks, Mommy." I turned to my parents and sister, standing like gods in their self-made kingdom, a backyard that should have been neutral ground, not a battlefield of class and cruelty. "This is disgusting," I said, "feeding expired food to a child? While the dog eats like a king." "It's just expired food," Tara said with an eye roll. "You're overreacting again." "You always do," Mom chimed in, waving her hand like I was a fly. "Just be grateful we even invited you." Grateful? That word stuck in my throat like thorns. Grateful for being invited to a barbecue where my son was fed garbage and mocked for existing? Tara always had it easy. Private schools, new cars, college fully paid for. I got community college and a used laptop my dad made me pay off monthly at interest. She had dogs with their own bedroom. I had to share a bunk bed with her until I was 17. Zach began coughing. My attention snapped back. I rushed to him. He'd taken a bite before I could stop him. I held him close, checked his mouth, checked his tongue. "Does your tummy hurt?" He nodded, eyes watering. "Enough!" I snapped, lifting him up and grabbing our things. "We're leaving." "No need to be dramatic," Dad called out. "Yeah, tell your little prince not to be so sensitive," Tara added with a snort. As I buckled Zach into the back seat of our car, I looked at their smug faces from across the yard, smug, comfortable, and secure in the idea that I'd always be beneath them. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I'd spent too long keeping quiet, too long laughing things off for the sake of family, but they fed poison to my child, and they called it a joke. That night, as I sat beside Zach's bed watching him sleep, curled around a hot water bottle, I opened my laptop and started typing. Not a letter. Not an angry message. A script. A script that would become the beginning of their humiliation. I was a comedy writer. They never took my work seriously, said I was chasing silly dreams. But what they didn't know, I had just sold a script to a production company, and they wanted my next story to be raw, real, and punchy. I stared at the blinking cursor. Then I typed the first line. She gave the dog a steak. She gave the kid expired food, and then said, "It builds character." The title? Meet the Maddest Family in Suburbia. I changed the names. The dog was now a hairless chihuahua named Caesar. The boy? Named Charlie. The sister? A beauty queen with secrets. The parents? A mix of narcissists and clowns. It was going to be a dark comedy. A brutal one. And it was going to go live everywhere. Not as a blog, not a skit, not a diary. It was going to be on stage. Because while Tara fed my son scraps and expected him to smile, I was crafting her downfall joke by joke, line by line, until the world laughed at her the way she laughed at us. And trust me, when I say the punchline would hit harder than she ever imagined. It started with an open mic night at a small comedy club in downtown Austin, a cozy, dimly lit place where struggling writers tested their material and the audience was just tipsy enough to be honest. I stood behind the curtain, my fingers trembling slightly, not from nerves but rage buried so deep it had fossilized into fuel. "Next up, we have—" "Nora," the host shouted. Applause. A few claps, mostly polite. No one knew me. But they would. I stepped up to the mic, smiled, and said, "You ever have a sister who treats her dog better than your child?" People chuckled, a few laughs bubbled up. "I mean, my sister gave her dog a steak, a literal porterhouse steak, served it on a porcelain plate with parsley. My kid? He got old eggs she found in the back of the fridge, expired, fuzzy on the edges." A burst of laughter. "And when I said, 'Hey, that's expired,' she goes, 'So what? Builds immunity.'" Now the room was howling. It poured out of me every cruelty, every slap-in-the-face moment retooled as punchlines. I called the parents the clueless royals. Tara became the Duchess of Dog Food, and I, the black sheep with a pen and a microphone. I didn't hold back. I told them about the time my mom laughed when I asked for help with Zach's hospital bill, about how my dad once said, "Well, if you can't afford a child, why'd you have one?" Every night, the crowds got bigger, and every night, I added more. Until one night, an agent approached me after the set. "You ever thought about taking this to the screen?" Within 3 months, the Duchess of Dog Food had a pilot deal. 6 months later, a trailer was airing online starring an actress that looked suspiciously like Tara, down to the smug smirk, and a family so eerily familiar that even people from our old neighborhood started whispering. I knew they saw it. Tara's Instagram went dark. Mom called me once, left a voicemail saying, "This isn't funny anymore, it's cruel." Cruel? You think feeding a child expired food and calling it a joke isn't cruel? You think laughing when your daughter's kid cries from stomach cramps isn't cruel? You raised me to stay quiet, to be the forgiving one. Well, I changed. And I wasn't done. I called up the school. Tara's daughter was set to attend the elite prep school they bragged about endlessly. Turns out, the school had accepted her with high expectations based on Tara's community involvement and family values. I simply forwarded the studio press release and some episode previews. 2 days later, the school respectfully withdrew the offer. Why? Because the Duchess of Dog Food was now number 2 on the trending list, not just in comedy, but in social commentary. Writers were calling it a brilliant takedown of suburban narcissism. I wasn't just airing dirty laundry. I turned my pain into primetime television. And the best part? Tara didn't even know who leaked the real family photos that perfectly matched the characters on screen. It was Dad. My own father. After the show embarrassed him so badly at his golf club, he tried to turn on Tara, blaming her for starting all this. He sent me an email. "Maybe you should do a spinoff. Call it the Sibling Snake." I replied, "Too late. That's season 2. By the time I got to the final episode of the season, I wrote the most brutal scene yet. It wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive. It was a quiet birthday dinner. A little boy sitting alone at a plastic table, watching a dog eat steak while adults clinked wine glasses. The punchline? The camera pans slowly to a sign taped behind him that reads, "Only real family gets a plate." And that's when people stopped laughing. They started crying. I had turned my pain into a national mirror. And I wasn't done yet. It was the night of the live season finale. The studio audience buzzed with energy, unaware that the final scene they were about to witness wasn't just a performance, it was a confession dressed as comedy. Backstage, I adjusted my mic, watching the monitors. The set designers had outdone themselves. They recreated Tara's old kitchen exactly. Same chairs, same chipped tile, even the ridiculous "Bless this mess" sign my mom used to hang like it meant anything. The camera rolled. The scene began. I walked on set as the character Nina, a thinly veiled version of myself. Across the kitchen island sat the sister, slicing a steak for her dog, humming happily. Nina turned and whispered to her son, "It's okay, baby. I brought you snacks. We'll eat together after this." The boy smiled, unaware of the cruelty around him. Then came the final monologue. The lights dimmed, a single spotlight followed me. The words weren't scripted anymore. My sister once told me he's just a kid. He won't remember. I turned to the crowd. She was right. He didn't remember the expired eggs, the hunger, the comments. Pause. But I did. Dead silence. I remembered everything. Backstage, I saw my phone light up. Tara was watching. And so was my mom. She'd sent 6 texts. Mom, this is disgusting. You're exaggerating. People think we're monsters. Take it down. We're your family. Don't destroy us over old food. But I didn't respond. Because the last scene hadn't aired yet. It was real footage I had dug up an old grainy home video from Zach's 4th birthday. He was reaching for cake with his little hands. And Mom said, "Let the dog lick it first, it's funny." Tara laughed on tape, and my boy had just sat down, confused, embarrassed. That was the final shot. The credits rolled over the audience's stunned silence. No clapping. Not until I walked out. Then came the standing ovation, slow, rising, like thunder after lightning. They didn't just see a show. They saw my scars. I got offers from 3 book publishers that same week. Zach's story was being picked up in psychology programs as an example of normalized cruelty. And Tara? She lost her brand deals. Her social media collapsed under the weight of exposure. One brand posted a note. "We do not align with individuals who mistreat children." Her husband filed for divorce. He cited emotional volatility and media pressure. I didn't gloat. I just exhaled. Peace was never silence. It was justice. Mom came knocking 2 weeks later, literally, at my apartment, holding a pie like nothing had ever happened. "We just want to move forward," she smiled. "We're family. We didn't know you felt so sensitive." I didn't even open the door. Instead, I slid a DVD through the mail slot. It was the final episode. A sticky note on top read, "Watch with headphones. Let Dad hear it too." A week later, I got one final message from her. "Mom, we lost everything." I stared at it for a moment, then texted back, "No, you lost me. Everything else was decoration?" The story made headlines again. They called me the comedian who turned cruelty into a punchline that made a nation cry. But I was never after applause. Just acknowledgement. And finally, I had it. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.